Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Today, we're thrilled to introduce the star of strategy and the Sultan of safeguarding, Sahil Malhotra. As the principal attorney at Drishti Law in Chicago, Sahil is dedicated to illuminating the path for established businesses and startups like a lighthouse for lost ships. With a sharp focus on intellectual property and trademark matters, he's not just leading a law firm, he's cultivating a community of heart-led businesses. Get ready to dive into a delightful discussion about vision, values, and victory in the entrepreneurial space. Sahil, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was a wonderful welcome. That's a heck of an intro.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm really excited to have you on the show today and really dive in, because we haven't had an attorney on the show yet, and I'm sure a lot of people are going, heart-led business, attorney, how is that really working? So, But before we dive into all of that, my first question is always, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
This is one of the questions that I was really thinking about a lot when we were getting ready for this episode. So for me personally, heart-led business is obviously deeply connected to the purpose of what you do, right? It's not just about making a profit. Obviously, you want to develop a profitable business, but it's about feeling like you're making a meaningful difference, right? In my case, I wanted to create something where I felt like I was helping people in the most impactful way. So I work with mostly small businesses, owners, entrepreneurs, dreamers, people like me who decided to pursue their vision. And by the way, Drishti means vision or focused gaze, and bring you something unique into the world, right? There are people with a product or service that they think only they can offer in a very distinct and incredibly fulfilling way to be part of their journey. So, emotions and empathy, I feel like that's something play a huge role in a heart-led business, mostly because I am helping people protect their intellectual property. That could be trademarks, which is your brand name or logo or slogan, your product packaging, could be a copyright, could be a book you're writing, could be a song you've written, could be a song, audio recording, could be anything like that. Whether it's a new name for someone's auto repair shop, a logo for a bakery, a book they've poured their soul into, an industry secret that gives them that competitive edge. There's so much heart behind all of that. There's also an element of understanding and breaking down barriers. People bring a lot of communication styles, emotions, even egos into the process. And connecting them with listening and empathy is what I feel like defines a heart-led business. And so at my core, I'm a really passionate person. And I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very passionate about what I've built. And I think passion is probably what makes a business heart-led. And even attorneys,
Exactly.
they do have hearts. And I would pull it out and show it to you right now. We do have hearts. And some people work in mergers and acquisitions. Some people work big law firm jobs. But for me, I really wanted to be a part of growing a community and being part of helping small businesses, like you said, entrepreneurs, startups, people who can't necessarily afford or go to a big firm. Because I was in that place 3 years ago where I didn't know where to turn to. And there were a lot of people. You were one of the people that I turned to in the initial phases of starting my business. Sometimes the passion also means going beyond what's expected. I've worked with public school teachers. I've worked with union workers, college students, providing extra assistance, which is usually beyond the scope of our agreements, because I believe in protecting those individuals and their creations. And ultimately, a heart-led business is all about serving others in a way that is deeply meaningful and personal to you. And for me, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah. I can definitely see the passion, hear the passion with what you do. And when you said protecting their purpose and their passion behind the logo and the name, and you know what, for every business owner out there, the name of their company, it's like a newborn baby sometimes.
Yeah.
That special secret sauce that they have that they want to trademark, their framework or whatever it is, that's their baby. And that's a huge part of their business, and you're saving that for them.
Because it's their baby. This is where some of the maybe unemotional side of attorneys is where it helps, I feel like, and maybe there is some friction where you have to communicate something like that in a different way to your client, because yeah, it's their baby. There have been many times I've had to tell clients like, we can't move forward with this. And more often than not, because my clients are not the types who have money to go to litigation. And I want to save them money in the future. Because right now, if they're barely starting something that is new, that they want it to be prosperous, they want it to grow, you want the least amount of headaches possible. And legal headaches are some of the biggest headaches that you can deal with. And yeah, exactly. I might not be a big law firm, but it still costs money.
Yeah.
But so yeah, there have been many times I've had to tell clients like, okay, let's walk away from this one. And it's been hard conversations, definitely very hard conversations to have with them. But there are times you also want to stand up for a client. It's all like dependent on the situation. One of the main things you learn in law school is you get to answer a lot of questions by saying it depends. Because you don't really know. I only know how much you provide to me, and then I can only help you in the best way I think that you can grow. And if you don't have $250,000, I tell people, if you don't have $250,000 ready to burn for litigation, just eat the cost and let's rebrand, because in the long run, this is better for you.
Yeah. This might be just a little bit off topic, but I'm certainly curious. Is it the case of like a big dog that is being infringed upon, or is sometimes the big dog is infringing upon like the small startup?
Nuances in almost everything. I mean, there's the blatant ones, like the cannabis industry in the US obviously has grown exponentially, but a lot of like cannabis products get inspiration from pop culture. So there are some blatant examples where you just shouldn't be doing that now that you're part of the legal industry. So someone was selling a brand of flower, cannabis flower, using Clint Eastwood's name, and Clint Eastwood sued, obviously. And won without permission. So like Mike Tyson has his own brand of cannabis products, but that's because it's Mike Tyson's products. Willie Nelson too, Snoop Dogg, all these people, all these celebrities. I mean, like everybody's gotten into that now. Yeah. But yeah, so like there are blatant examples where you obviously don't want to go ahead and do that. And I think this industry is just has been dealing with trying to become a part of legal society, because they haven't been for so long, right? And then there are times where it's the big dog just trying to be monopolistic. Just because someone's brand starts with the same letter as their first letter, they own monopoly over that letter. So but then even then there are times I'll tell the client, even in that scenario, do you want to fight it? Do you want to spend like $10,000 to $15,000 just like fighting it? So even in that scenario, I have to have this conversation where I have to be realistic with the client that it will be cheaper for you to just do some research, file a new trademark instead of going to fight this. You could win, absolutely you could win. But do you want to spend all that money? There's examples of those, like Stone Brewing, which is a really famous brewery out of San Diego. They fought, I can't remember, and please do not sue me, Coors or Bud Light. They sued Coors or Bud Light for using a registered term for Stone's IPA. I remember. I can remember the term specifically, but Stone won, and Stone said they almost went bankrupt fighting this. And the thing is, Stone is a famous brewery. Stone is a really big brewery all across America. It's one of the premier, first craft brew type organizations. And if that company almost went bankrupt, you have to think about how even a smaller business, how expensive it could really get if you're fighting these big dogs, even if you're in the right. Because they will file motions, they will bury you in deposit, they will bury you in discovery, they will do every task. The thing is, if I was their attorney, I'd be doing the same thing. But like, I'm not their attorney because I don't want to do that. And that's part of being a heart-led business.
Yeah, you pick your battles too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I heard of there was a teenager that started a company that was picking up dog doo doo, and for neighbors, and he called it Call of Duty, and
Yeah.
then the game Call of Duty then
Yeah. Of
sued
course.
him obviously. So
Obviously.
I think that's a
Yeah.
little bit too close
Yeah,
to the
no,
name. So
absolutely. I've seen, I mean, in India, I've seen, so there's a Sardar Baksh, which is Starbucks.
oh my god.
Sardar is what you call is like a Sikh person. And literally, instead of the logo of the mermaid and everything, it's the logo of a guy with a turban in the similar concept of the mermaid. And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And part of it is, again, in India. I mean, there's a guy in India who actually beat Burger King because he was using Burger King in India before
Oh.
Burger King was using Burger King in India. Because this is
Oh
another thing.
wow.
You have regional rights, right, and trademarks. So just
Ah.
because you're
Okay.
registered in America doesn't mean you have rights in India. And so,
Okay.
like, that was like a lesson learned. That little guy still gets to have his Burger King, basically. So
But is
there are
it?
times little guys win.
Yeah. Is it flame broiled though?
Yeah, I
Is it?
don't know if it's flame broiled. I'll guarantee it's not beef.
It's not beef, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, cool. So, what inspired you to start a heart-led business?
My wife doesn't like it when I phrase it like this. It's a mix of desperation and then also just like not enjoying what you were doing. I say
Yep.
desperation because it was post law school, it was COVID time, bar exam had been delayed multiple times. I went to law school knowing I wanted to be in IP. I knew even more I wanted to be more involved with trademarks when I started doing clinic work, where we would provide pro bono services for
Oh,
small businesses, entrepreneurs, anybody
yeah.
literally, pro bono services, because these things are expensive. I remember providing those services, and I interned at the USPTO as a clerk and everything. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I think I was just like nudged towards paths where others wanted me to go, almost like
Yeah.
any other Indian kid. You probably push into medicine at some point. And then you just realize, oh, I hate this. I don't like this. And then sometimes it's too late in life when you think you realize this. But I now as an unconventional law school student, but in a way, almost feel like I was even more ready than
Hmm.
most of the people in law school. Most of the kids in law school are like 24,
Yeah.
25, 23 years old, even straight out of undergrad.
Mm.
I had like 10, 15 years of like, I bartended for 8 years. I've been an accountant. I've held a lot of like odd jobs. I've been a server, and I feel like almost everybody should have a service industry job. It just,
Absolutely.
I
100%.
feel like it just teaches you a lot of things. And I think I knew like around 2016, 2015 that I wanted to go to law school. And I wanted to
Mm.
utilize some of my technical background. I wanted to utilize some of my creative interests, and that could only be fulfilled by IP. I didn't want to be a criminal attorney. I didn't want to be a personal injury attorney, mostly because it sounds sad and depressing, and God bless the people who do it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm an emotional, passionate person. I will bring that home. I know I'll bring that home.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't for me. What inspired me was my innate desire to like protect what others
Mm.
are passionate about
Yeah.
and inform people. Like I can have a conversation with someone about politics, about in a podcast that they might be into, about literally anything. And I think that's part of the bartending. Get used to talking to people.
Yep.
I think like yeah, so like post COVID when like everything was, I did a consulting job for anti-money laundering work, and it was disgusting. It was boring. I did it for 2 months and I hated it, and I quit a week before I was getting married and told my wife I'm going to start a law firm. She's very skeptical initially, which I don't blame her. That's a big leap to take
Yeah.
for someone who's never even ran a business before. I barely graduated law school, but I knew what I could provide because I learned service providing in law school when I was doing internships and when I was working at the clinic. I interacted
Mm.
with people. I just didn't know how to run a business. You don't even know how do you establish a Google My Business page? Like things like that. People don't teach you that in law school. I think that's the
No.
hard part about starting a business. So
Right.
yeah, if anything, like I said, part of it was desperation, but part of it I knew what I wanted to do. I
Mm.
knew this was a space I wanted to be in because I knew this was the best way I could help people and especially bring out a good part of my creative side into it because coming up with new names, coming up with logos, coming up with product designs and all these different things. Trademarks is not just about names. Tiffany has their box
Trademark.
trademark. Coke's bottle is a registered trademark.
Hmm.
iPhone design is a registered trademark. Shoe designs are registered trademarks. So so there's so many things that people like brand protection kind of gets into. A lot of it really spoke to my creative side as well. I
Yeah.
love getting involved in someone's getting in their head and what do they want to evoke? Oh, you want to sell sweet and savory snacks. What are the feelings you want to evoke out of those sweet and savory snacks that you want to sell? What kind of sweet and savory snacks are you going to sell? So I'm going to think about geographic descriptors. I'm going to look for unique portmanteaus that might make the name sound like a little punchy. So if anything, that creative process, I think being able to help someone start and create and protect something from the beginning, being part of that journey. I think that being raised in an Indian household where it's such a community based environment, sometimes too much, um, but a really community based environment, that's what I wanted to build. I didn't want to build to a senior partner at a law firm.
Mm.
I don't think it would have been that fulfilling. When I talk to my clients now, and and this is not to toot my own horn, when someone messages me or calls me out of the blue and just not out of the blue, we're talking about something, but and they'll just
Yeah.
tell me something out of the blue, oh my God, I'm so glad I reached out to you. You've been a blessing. Or I got a text from this
Nice.
lady 2 weeks ago. You've been a blessing in my life. And I was like, I just filed this lady's trademarks. Like,
Well, but you're taking
but
care of her baby, right?
yeah,
That's
thank you.
yeah.
And so I feel like I am, and also as a South Asian person, I don't know if the numbers have been updated, but in the intellectual property attorney world, less than 1% of attorneys, oh, sorry, not in the legal world in America, less than 1% of attorneys are South Asian.
Oh wow.
And when I go
That's
to these conferences where the big firms and the medium-sized firms are setting their attorneys to attend these things, the decision makers are not necessarily, they don't necessarily look like me. If anything, I see a lot more diversity coming from European law firms than I do from the US law firms.
mm.
Uh, Almost never. I mean, let's not even talk about Indian people. Let's people of Indian descent. Let's talk about Black people.
Yeah.
I don't even see that as much at U.S. law firms. So I feel like I didn't I didn't go out wanting to be the South Asian IP attorney, but in some way I've become that as well because a lot of South Asian people will reach out to me.
Oh.
I feel like that's a gap I'm filling in the industry. Not to sound crass about it, but I feel like people do like approaching someone they can relate to, they can talk to, they can
Exactly.
speak to. And we're a huge community in the US, and a decent portion of us can be business owners as well, can be creatives as
Yeah.
well. So I feel like there's a gap not only economically that I'm filling in the industry, I also feel like being able to provide a very niche legal service to a community that is maybe overlooked at
Yeah.
times because not all of us
Underserved.
are doctors. Not all of us are doctors. Not all of us are engineers. Some of it, I mean, I know some of the kind of weird traits that people put Indians towards is gas station owners. Yeah, gas stations are a business too. If they have a chain of gas stations and they provide a unique way of providing a gas station service, that can be protected as well. Look at Buc-ee's.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I
Did
think
now,
that's part of me. Sorry, go ahead.
speaking of Buc-ee's, just for that know Buc-ee's in Texas. Now, did they trademark the clean bathroom?
Well, first of all, they couldn't be able to trade. They wouldn't be able to trademark a clean bathroom. It would depend on how. Well, depends on what class of service. See, this is what I said. You
Yeah.
learn. It depends.
The nuance.
Uh, depends on the category of goods and services. But if they're doing clean bathrooms for let's say, a restaurant, I don't think you could do that because
Yeah.
it's too generic and also descriptive as well. I don't want to get into the weeds of what is trademarkable or not now, but
Right.
but
It's-
yeah.
But that's like what people
That's a
know
huge
of
thing.
Buc-ee's.
Yeah,
It's huge of Buc-ee's.
absolutely.
It's a truck stop with a clean bathroom.
Clean
Right?
bathrooms. And I mean, also a truck stop where I can buy a smoker and then also a Christmas sweater. And then at the same time, I can get groceries if I need for the house.
Yeah.
So like,
And a
it's
pulled pork
everything.
sandwich.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
barbecue
A
sandwich.
brisket,
Brisket
breakfast
sandwich.
brisket tacos, a mile-long line of different types of beef jerky. It's just insane. Like the first time
Yeah.
I think I saw the line of different types of jerky, I just like, it's like walked into heaven. I think in a day, just in 24 hours, you're probably interacting with at least like 4 to 5 thousand brands easily.
100%. Yeah,
Like
easily.
you wake
Easy.
up within the first 15 minutes, you got your toothpaste, you got your toothbrush, you got your coffee, your milk, your what, just so many
Your
things. The
phone.
type of fridge you have, the door
Yeah.
hinges that are being made that is probably protected as a patent. The company probably has a trademark. So
Wow.
like it's literally anything and everything that you are surrounded by. Someone at some point in time was like, let me protect this in whatever ways I can outside the scope of just running a business. A lot of people don't realize. People think like, I'm gonna make some money, then I'll protect my IP.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell people, do you want to get sued now or do you want to get sued later?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the question. And like, and that's not to be like, again, crass or anything, but it's just a reality. When people
Yeah.
ask, oh, could I be sued if I use this name? I was like, I don't know, possibly. Yeah, probably
Oh.
could if you don't do a search, if you don't figure out if somebody else is not using something similar to it. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So how have you balanced making a profit and still being heart-led? Because the whole purpose of the show is when we talk to heart-led business owners, a lot of them are like, I just want to give all my stuff away. I just want to help people. And you're very passionate. You're very passionate about helping people. How do you balance that want and passion for helping people, but also still making money?
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely a learning curve. It's not something you learn from day one. I feel like I'm still learning. I tell people all the time how I'm doing things right now might not be the way I'm doing things 6 months from now.
Yeah.
That's very true, and that might be partially my ADHD, but partially it's also my desire to consistently improve and have less inefficiencies. Um,
Mm.
but it's definitely a learning curve. Like there is a time where you feel desperate to like just like earn anything and you feel like undervaluing your services. And there is a hard line that you
Mm.
have to draw because you have to realize that like, okay, you gave this person a discount. Is this a discount that they're going to expect for the rest of the time? And then also when
Mm.
your work increases with other things, are you going to be able to provide them the same value of legal service? No, you're not. You're even if you don't think about it explicitly, you're gonna subconsciously be like, that person only paid me this much money. This one is more important. Of course, you're gonna give more importance to someone who gave you more money. Like it's
With more
because there's a
value.
lot value and a lot more tied to it as well. Also, you're getting paid what you're worth in that. And I think undervaluing yourself, you're not only cheating yourself, you're cheating the client as well.
And
You're providing them a low quality service.
uh,
Um, you're providing them a service that's not, when we said earlier, passionate, you're not going to be as passionate about that. Because at the end of the day, the business still has to help you financially. You still have to pay your own bills outside of just the business bills. I think some of the things people don't realize is like, yeah, I run a virtual business, but there's a lot of money involved still in it. Like
yeah,
you're using legal tech tools, you've had support staff, all these different things cost money. Like,
yeah,
how do you think you found me? Because I was spending money for you
yeah,
to,
right. On marketing.
you didn't find me because like you just did a little search. Like, yeah, you did a little search, and then I have spent money to make sure I come up on that search. So I think part of it really is like being honest with yourself. Are you going to be able to provide the same value of service that you would to someone else? Yeah, there will be times you will provide discounts or whatever, especially if it's like in the South Asian community, whenever someone reaches out to me, more often I was like, Sal bhai, discount, Indian, like, come on, we're from the same area, discount.
Discount.
And there are times like, yeah, with my community people, there's a soft spot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a soft spot for me. Um, because I feel there's responsibility. And part of that is just part of that is just good old guilt. But part of that is like really you want to feel like you're helping your community because there's not as many of us. But even with that, like, are you going to be honest and then transparent with the way you're going to provide the service to this person? Yeah, you can provide them a discount, but like, are you going to value the work you're doing for them? No, you're not going to value the work as much. There have been times where I've undervalued something and gotten paid less. Specifically with one client, I remember as a litigation thing, and I was just
Oh,
really
wow.
passionate about what they were doing, and mostly because it was a person of color, woman-led business in the
Oh,
construction
nice.
space.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's insane. And I wanted to help her protect like her trademark and everything. She was in litigation with this huge, insane international construction conglomerate, like a revenue of over 20 billion type deal. And like to them it's nothing. To them she's a, fly. And I tried my best to convince her, I remember, to change her name, not go through with it, all those things. And she just didn't want to. She wanted to fight it. And you know what? My client wants to fight it, I'll fight it.
Yeah.
But I undervalued. I didn't charge her as much. I was emotionally connected too much to wanting to help her instead of thinking about myself. You have to realize the business is not just about helping others, the business is also about helping yourself, your
Absolutely.
family. You have community support, you have your house to take care of as well. So, although, yes, doctors go to help patients, but God, like medical school is expensive.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. Law school is expensive. It costs $500,000 in America to go to law school. So like we
That's
have to.
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. That's a whole nother podcast we can do. But yeah, so like it is ridiculous. And be honest with yourself. Respect yourself. I think a lot of times we don't like. There's not a lot of self compassion. People
Uh,
lack self compassion. People tend to be harder on themselves than they do than they need to,
yeah.
instead of recognizing that it might just be a situation that is kind of like that you can alleviate in other ways, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of it as well, is figuring out how to provide like good services is going to take a long time, and it's not something you're going to learn from the get-go. I'm still learning. There are times I'm
Yeah.
still learning, but yeah, like just undervaluing yourself is not only hurting the client, it's hurting yourself as well. It's hurting your business. You're not going to be able to help more people in the future if you just
Exactly.
fail your business right now. Like, what's the
Yep.
point of helping this one person if 6 months from now my business is shut down?
That's right.
Yeah.
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 Such a good lesson. And I've had a couple of guests you repeat that. And every time we fly, we get that lesson as well. Put your oxygen mask on first before helping
Hmm.
somebody else. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of people think it's selfish. I don't think it's selfish at all because like you said, if you're not in business, now you're not helping anybody. So
Yeah.
you have almost a
Eh,
duty and obligation to charge what you're worth.
I have like every year I have this built out separate budget now. Like starting this year was a thing, but from built out separate budget where I'm like, okay, I can take on this much of pro bono or reduced cost work. And
Oh, that's
like
really good. Yeah.
where I feel like I can provide this level. And then once I hit that, then it's a judgment call. More often than not, it's just like, yeah, I can't do this. Financially, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. Not necessarily makes sense. I mean, I can't pay the bills. I have support
Yeah.
staff to pay too. It's not, yeah, I want to help clients, but my support staff also needs to get paid as well. They have bills to pay. So it's not just, I think people also don't realize in the first 2 years, 2.5 years, I didn't take any money out of the
Mm,
business. My support staff they were making more money off the business than I was, and
yep.
everything goes back in. And even now, 80% of it goes back in, right?
Yeah.
And even now, what I take out is very minimal, but I'm blessed to be in a position 3 years later that I can take some money out now.
That's
But
good.
yeah, it's not like you said, and like most would probably say, it's not something that happens overnight. There's plenty of times you will fail, and I think the fear of failure is what actually causes people to fail more than anything else, because failure is just going to happen. You're
Yep.
not going to be perfect from day one. I remember telling one of my mentors about this specific client who was being difficult about not moving away from litigation and also not paying me. And my mentor, he just starts laughing on the phone because he's like, welcome to the industry, that type of deal. He's like, this is good that you're learning this now
Yeah.
instead of 3 years later. So yeah, I fast tracked a
Mm.
lot of things. I started a business that more often not a person a year away from law school wouldn't start. But I think I've learned a lot of lessons. Not even think, I know I've learned a lot of lessons that I know there are attorneys who will never learn because they've never done this kind of business development. They've never interacted with clients like I do. They've never done in-person activities at conferences like I do. And
Mm.
that's fine. Most attorneys are chill with just sitting on the desk, drafting, researching. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I genuinely enjoy this aspect of the business. I didn't think I would, but I enjoy communicating, engaging with people, meeting people from different parts of the world, meeting attorneys from different parts of the world. That's one
Oh,
of the
yeah.
biggest blessings
Yeah.
of doing this is like just being able to run into a different type of person. You think you've met all kinds of people, and then you meet a new one. That's probably one of the biggest blessings because it gives you perspective, right? Like you live in your own bubble all the time, and it gives you perspective. I think that's part of it as well. That's why I also said
Yeah.
service industry jobs, they should be key. It should be almost that should be like the
Mandatory.
requirement. Yeah,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
even if I'm not like military service, service industry jobs should be mandatory for people to
Yes,
learn some
absolutely.
manners, because at least.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I worked at McDonald's in high school, so I don't know if I learned how to flip a burger really pretty good,
Yeah.
but manners
Yeah.
maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But
I mean, no, I think
that's
if you're
just
interacting with people,
yeah.
that's another scenario
And
where you
different
just,
people. Yeah,
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 different kinds of
yeah.
person. Like when you're bartending, and then also when you're
Oh,
serving
yeah.
at a restaurant, you're meeting a lot of
Oh
different
boy.
people. And like there will be, you also get to learn people will be cruel sometimes,
Yep.
and you just have to roll with it.
100%. That's cool. Well, Sahil, this has been just a fantastic conversation, and how can the listeners learn a little bit more about your law firm and what you can do for them?
Absolutely. If anybody wants to learn a little bit more about intellectual property, you can, or even just need some kind of assistance in their small business, I do some small business consulting as well. They can reach out to me at drishtilaw.com. That is DRISHTI law.com. On Instagram, they can find me at drishti_law. They can find me on TikTok. You can find me on
Oh,
YouTube. You can find me on Twitter as well, if that's your thing. I'm not calling it X.
good.
You know, but if that's your thing, you can find me on Twitter as well, Sahil Malhotra IP. If you want to reach out and ask a few questions, my email is Sahil, that's Sahil, at drishtilaw.com. Yeah, I would love to connect with you. If you just have just questions, you ever want like a second opinion that you've already talked to an IP attorney and you want a second opinion
Oh,
for
that's
someone,
good.
I'm always open for that kind of
Oh, that's
conversation. I'm not gonna trash your attorney. I'm just gonna tell you how I would do it. And more often than not, most attorneys, I feel like most attorneys in my space are pretty honest and well respected individuals because they themselves are small businesses.
so
I like to very much tell that to people. But yeah, you can find me on all
awesome.
those spaces, or you
Cool.
can call the office at 773-431-1714.
All right. Well, Sahil, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it and wish you all the best of luck as you continue to thrive as a heart-led business as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it for you inviting me to the show, and this was generally a great conversation.
It's a lot of fun. And thank you, listeners, for watching the show today. And we really appreciate it. And make sure you're checking out everything that Sahil is doing. And we're going to provide all of those links down in the show notes. So check that out down in the show notes and take him up on that offer to run something by him, because you never know. That one idea might be that next idea that gives you that $1 million business. So, and if you could do me one solid favor, and that is to share this show with a friend or family member that could use the advice that was shared, that would really help us grow the show as well. And until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.